Hello, good morning, dear network, dear Nobel Prize jury and friends and followers. Good morning, this is Fanny Menardi, and I'm making a new video regarding the Nobel Prize takeover campaign. I've been campaigning for a year to support the Secretary General of the United Nations for the Nobel Peace Prize. And as it went, I was like, why not supporting all my other idols that I feel should be rewarded, like Elon Musk, for the Nobel Prize of Physics, because of course, I don't think anyone this year or last year has shown so much improvement in technology and incredible achievements with Neuralink, for the healing, or at least finding strategies to compensate disabilities, or launching rockets going to Mars, and the robotics. I mean, it's so much. Tesla, the electric vehicles, so everything falls into place with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And then I was like, but what is missing to the rockets is the clean aspect. Because of course, the combustion that is produced by the rockets emits so much pollution. And they're planning on launching thousands and thousands of ships to go to Mars. So just imagine now with the airplanes, the cars, and the rockets, the pollutions, like here in Florida, we constantly have bronchitis, pneumonia, coughing. I'm coughing all the time. So, of course, it's amazing. It's a step, every improvement, like in medicine, stuff that they found years ago that feel like normalcy to us. At the time, that was revolutionary. Vaccines against diseases like, measles or tetanus, all these things that for us, they don't even exist anymore, but this is because of these huge improvements at the time that it becomes normalcy for us. So the rockets, with all the data that SpaceX has acquired, of course we can now add the new researches of the International Space Federation with the free energy and my anti-gravity electromagnetic equation that they completed at the International Space Federation, adding this to all the data that SpaceX has gathered to create these new sustainable spaceships. So it started like this, and I was like, so let's nominate also the International Space Federation with Nassim Haramein and bring them together in a room so we can sign contracts to implement, those new prototypes and then produce them. And it goes along with what the government wants to do. Americans want to be the first ones to go to Mars, and Russia as well. They're passionate. Vladimir Putin is passionate about technology. He's passionate about space exploration. So this is the key to peace, to negotiating peace. They want exceptional sensations. So instead of going and killing people at war, bring them technology, stuff that they are going to be able to show their power, their force, their excellence, their strength, the warrior culture. It's a culture since the time of the Greeks, even before that, the Incas, they were all warriors. So we can't take this from the human race, but we can actually take it to the space race and avoid killing people in the process. And then I was like, if I have the chance of getting a literature prize and we're all going to be there, and then why not gathering the entire team? The other day at work, we had this argument with a parent, and all my team showed up for me and, to protect me. And I was like very touched. I was like, wow, that made me feel protected. That made me feel supported, and I feel like if everyone in the world would feel like this, there would be less war, because wars start because of people who feel left out. They're angry. They want to be heard by their government, and they start breaking things, and it escalates into wars. So I wanted to read an extract of The Bridge from Barack Obama. He's not the one who wrote it, but David Remnick is the one who wrote it, but it's about the life of Barack Obama. So I'm going to read 2 extracts today. And then I'm going to give you my nomination also for the Economic Science Prize, which of course I support Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, and why not Kim Kardashian, because they're all people who started from nothing and who built an empire and now use their influence to empower other people. She empowers women, the fashion industry, and they empower people who are struggling in a divorce, who are trying to start new businesses, but they're also huge strategists for politicians. And so let me read this extract. To have a family, which we did, who constantly reminded you how smart you were, how good you were, how pleasant it was to be around you, how successful you could be, it's hard to combat. Our parents gave us a little head start by making us feel confident, because they're talking about when they grew up as white kids, a lot of people would tell them they're not good enough, so having a lot of support is what made the difference. And it was the same in my journey when I had these big dreams. I would have people come here and look at my paintings. They were, oh, your paintings are really cool. Yeah, I could buy one of your paintings. Yeah, I'll give you $100. I'm like, oh no, sweetie, I'm not selling those for $100. Like, this was when I started at the beginning, but this one, I'm gonna sell it for $1 million. And she was laughing literally at my face, like, I don't think you'll ever sell any of this stuff for $1 million. I was like, well, watch me, because I know the energy, I know all the experience, the team, everything that came to build these paintings. It's not just a decoration, it's all the energy that comes to it. And I know it works. I know the power of just a little crystal. I'm wearing a little crystal, and you cannot imagine the effect that it has on the people around you, on the events around the day, like every day, all the time. And the painting is the same thing. You have people come here and they're looking at the painting, and all of a sudden it opens a window of conversations. So I did not let people's opinion stop me on my journey, or when I'm talking about the Nobel Prize to like my family or my parents, they start laughing like it's a joke, like, yeah, okay, sure. And I understand that it's very rare, but the only reason why I believe it's possible is because I had mentors and this whole entire team and tribe behind me to show like, why not, it's possible, and like pushing, and if everybody would feel empowered this way, there would be no more war. Everybody's supporting each other, like the divisions, the political divisions. That's what Americans want. I feel like there is this culture of argument, mostly around teenagers, but sometimes you hear the parents and you're like, okay, I know where this comes from. Not everyone, but a lot of people feel like they find their identity. They have a strong identity because they're opposed to something and they're loud about it. And I'm like, and what if we loved each other and we were loud about it? Instead of being in opposition and creating embarrassing situations, love people and be loud about it. Why not? And the best way, and then of course, I was like, if I'm bringing up Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins for the Economic Prize, what is it going to do when Elon Musk, they're all potential candidates for the next elections. I didn't even think about that until like last night. And I was like, okay, but that would actually be awesome. Imagine an election. That's what I wanted for the past election. I was like, imagine an election when you have 2 amazing people, running for the country, not against each other, but who has different ideas and who's going to bring them up. Elon Musk would be an amazing president. And Tony Robbins would be an amazing president. And why not one being the vice president or the other? I mean, I would rather see 2 amazing people running for the countries and that people identify with, no matter if they are Republicans or Democrats, than having, some crazy extremist psychopath that's starting to... what I mean is that the problem between Democrats and Republicans is that every 4 years, they rechange everything. Everything that one is building, the other one comes and they undo everything. And then they redo everything and then they undo everything, So we need some continuity. and people who are able to build bridges. Yes, so like Tony Robbins was saying, hope is not a strategy. You know, it's good to have people with different ideas. I don't agree with everything. I love Elon Musk. I don't agree with everything that they say, but yet I agree with a lot of stuff. For example, immigration. I don't agree with the immigration policy. I think we should support immigrants because you don't know why they arrived here, why they have to take all those risks for their family to start a new life. It's difficult and it's risky, and I think it's dumb to put your kids through that. But if they do it, maybe there is a reason. Maybe they didn't have other choices. Maybe they were fleeing guerrillas and gangs and violence, or maybe there was no food in their country or violence. You know, so we should support them. At the same time, it's unacceptable that people come to another country and they make a mess. They bring chaos. They become, you know, they use crime for a living. This is unacceptable. So these people, yes, they need to be sent back to their country. And not even that. If they're criminals, they need to be put to jail, not sent back to bring chaos back home. You know, so we have to see all the point of view so we can find a middle range and then find the perfect balance. So now let me read another extract. So yes, hope is not a strategy. That was the main point of my video. Hope is not a strategy. Tony Robbins says that. I could win a Nobel Prize. I wish I will. And the Secretary General of the United Nations could win a Nobel Prize. And Elon Musk could wish a Nobel Prize. And I could wish or hope that after that, they're going to think I'm good enough, you know, to be part of the team. They're going to think I'm good enough to hire me at the United Nations. And maybe we're going to meet up and talk about building spaceship. And then we're going to have to contact the International Space Federation. And we have to run after marketers, you know, to help us launch our campaign. And this is just, we can hope that they respond, and we can hope, and it's going to take a while. So we can hope on all this stuff, or we can make it happen and gather all these people right away in a room and not letting anyone go until we say, now we're here for peace. This is what the Nobel Prize has been working for, promoting people who want to remove the nuclear weapons, who want to bring peace. You know, this is the Nobel Peace Prize. You reward people for their achievement, but what if this time we came out with a plan and you have the best strategists, the best engineers, the best scientists, the best writers and campaign and consciousness activists and truth seekers, you know? I'm thinking, of course, of Elon Musk, Billy Carson, Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, Antonio Guterres, The Rock, Kim Kardashian, all people who have massive influence. Influence is everything on the mind of people, because if you hate Republicans and you think Elon Musk is the enemy, but maybe you love Tony Robbins, and maybe you think Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, they're crooks who only think about the money, you know, you've heard it all, just like teachers, you know, we're all horrible, we wake up in the morning just to know how we can ruin the kids' lives, like you hear it all. But maybe they believe in science, or maybe they love fashion, they love Hollywood, Kim Kardashian, they love The Rock, you know, so you need to find role models that people identify with and trust. And even better, if they're from different political parties, and we can be together in the room and show that we can work together. So imagine the example that would set for the entire world. So that's why I'm saying, hope is not a strategy. Let's put a white flag on this amazing event in December, like the highest event in the world where we preach for peace. And then set up how we're going to convince people and how we're going to put pressure on those governments to give us the nuclear weapons and show the power of unity. So that's my plan. I think it's beautiful. And so let me read one last extract. I absolutely need to go to work. The ultimate prize at the law review is its presidency. A comical proportion of each year's law review cadre, as many as half, ordinarily run for presidency. At first, Obama was reluctant to run. The competition would take place in February of his second year. He was gaining a reputation among his African American peers and among many faculty members. Christopher Edley Jr., whose father had been a protege of Thurgood Marshall's, had been elected to the Review in 1975, the black editor in many years. As a professor, he saw great promise in Obama. And then they say, there are a couple of things about legal education that can be enormously valuable, Edley said. One, of course, is studying how institutions of governance and property operate, how courts, legislators, I'm horrible reading in English, regulatory agencies operate. Second, it instills habits of mind that I think are enormously powerful, even when you are not dealing with something that one would narrowly consider to be law. For law students, it's very important to understand the other side of the argument. If you are a litigator, a critical skill is trying to anticipate and dissect the best argument your opponent is going to make. So you drill down and understand his argument as well as your own. That gives you a certain humility because it forces you to face the weaknesses in your own position and to appreciate that any difficult problem has by definition good arguments on both sides. That's where Barack Obama was strong. Yeah, and Barack Obama is so good at debating. Even I remember there was a man in the crowd who was like screaming, and instead of kicking them out of the crowd, he told them to stay, and he started addressing the argument. He said, yeah, you're right to speak up for your opinion, but fighting and making chaos is not how we're gonna succeed. Okay, we have to ally and take the little steps to reach that point. And this is what kids don't understand sometimes, is the generation of instant reward. You know, they want the thing, they have TikToks, they look at the TV shows, they have all the hundreds of TV shows they can watch. When we were young, you would watch a show, you have to wait for another week, to watch the next show. And it was patience, and learning to wait. And I feel like even writing my book, it took me years, to write this book. And it was so frustrating. I didn't have a job. I did not have the income, the money. But then this is how I created an encyclopedia. And then same for learning a language. And I feel like we really want to, I don't support what they did to me, how they made me grind and didn't invest in my business. They, money-wise, financially, I was in crisis. Like if I didn't find this job, I would probably be homeless right now, and it's not easy to find a job, even if you have a master's degree, something that actually supports the way of life that you want. I don't support that part, the grind. I believe in making the way easy for people. I believe in giving the answers. I believe in helping out, but at the same time, maybe that struggle is what made me so loud and indignated that I was at the point that the right people could hear me. I'm not justifying. Actually, if I would be part of the team, I'd be the one who makes sure that this doesn't happen again. That's just my journey, okay? In the meanwhile, they're helping a ton, millions of people. Tony Robbins, he gave billions of meals to Feeding America. Dean Graziosi, he helps millions of people with his events online to make it free for everyone. Even their mastermind platform, they basically give you free trials and help you stay, as long as you need, so you can get the support and the content that you need to create your business and shortcut all the efforts you have to put in the process. Still have to put a little bit of efforts into the things, at least to show that you care about it. Sometimes God is just putting obstacles to see how much you want it and how much you care about it. So that was it today, guys. I have to go, but yes, that was really the theme of today. Hope is not a strategy. Let's find the best, put them in a room and sign contracts, make projects, and start having a plan of action. Let's go. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.